Okay, so, okay, so I know Carol is still trying to get in, and while she's attempting to jump in, I'm going to wait until about 5 minutes after. And wait, Laura, where are you from?
I'm calling from McClellanville, but I actually work in Mount Pleasant and Charleston.
Okay, great. A local.
Yeah.
A low country local. And I know, Charnel, you're in St. Louis, right?
Springfield.
Springfield?
Susie lives in St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah,
and Bonnie, you're in what, Idaho?
Yep, there I am.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, that's cool.
Not a virus in sight.
Okay, not a virus in sight. Okay, so when I'm gonna just wait one more minute for Carol. She's gonna assist me. So when I do the channeling demonstration, she's gonna read questions while I go into a little bit deeper of a trance for that. So, okay, let's see. Okay, let me do this. Admit. Okay. All right, Dawn from Mount Pleasant. Hello, Dawn. And then Kaz, K-A-Z. Who is that? Love that dress, whatever it is. That is gorgeous. That scene, that picture is beautiful. Okay. All right. I'm not sure why Carol is having trouble. Maybe we're just not supposed to have her in here today. Okay, so thank you all for coming. I'm gonna go ahead and start, and I'll just kind of keep, you may see me a little distracted. I'll probably just let people in for another 10 minutes, and then I'll stop after that so I can keep my focus. How we'll do this hour and why I wanted to do it in Zoom is because it's so much easier to do questions in the chat here and interactive at the end if you guys want to. I'll unmute everyone and you can ask questions. The challenge I've had with Facebook Live is that I can see your questions, but there's a delay. In the last couple that I've done, I jump off the Facebook Live and I see there was questions that weren't showing up right away, and I kept having to refresh my screen. So this is just so much easier, especially when I'm trying to do something where I'm not focused and in my masculine energy, and that was just taking a lot of masculine energy to manage all of that. So thanks for joining me here. I want to start with, like, how many of you actually feel like or know that you already do some form of channeling?
Sure.
Yeah, a little bit, Renee?
Yeah.
Only when I'm in session.
Only, who said that?
Me, Renee.
Oh, okay, awesome. What do you do, Renee?
Reiki.
Reiki?
And that just recently started where I can channel a little bit. I can see a few things and a few messages come through. Not extensive yet, which I'd like to get to, but it's getting better.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's it. It does get better over time. Those channels strengthen and you just develop more confidence with them. So that's awesome that you're integrating that into your work. So that's a perfect intro. Anybody else want to share that they feel like they do any kind of channeling? No? Okay. So let me just, oh, who's that?
Rosie.
Rosie? Yeah, I could tell from some of the things you typed, definitely. And then our past life regression, when you were going to that. Okay, so hold on just a second. think. Okay. Let me see if I can. Yeah. All right. So let me just say how I got into channeling. I've mentioned this on some of the other Facebook Lives, but I'll mention it again here today, that I grew up in the South, and my parents were raised, one Baptist, one Methodist, and they basically kind of rejected the church because they felt there was a lot of hypocrisy. They were adults coming into being adults in the 60s. So the upshot of that was that they basically kind of rejected any kind of spirituality. And I tell people I grew up with like a clean slate and a blank slate. You know, people are typically raised with some type of religion or not, but the opportunity for that for me is that it allowed me to be able to not have any kind of preconceived ideas of about spirituality, about channeling, about past lives. And I'm just a very open-minded person. So I was able to kind of, I think, get into some of this without a lot of resistance is the word that I would use. So, okay, I'm sorry, hold on. I don't know if any of you, let me see. Copy. Give me one more second, guys. I'm still trying to share this with Carol. She is so frustrated right now. I don't know why she can't get in. Let's see if I can share this with her. Okay. East. All right, that's the last time I'm going to try with that. Oh, there she is. Okay, thank you. Finally. All right. So, so I kind of had that clean slate, and I started doing hypnotherapy as a recipient. I've mentioned that before, and I felt like it just so skyrocketed my healing from some childhood growing up with depression and everything. I decided to go into doing the work myself. And I came from, you know, parents who were engineers and teachers and very logical and analytical, and then you don't have any of the spiritual side of it. And then my teacher in clinical hypnosis was a licensed clinical social worker. And then I said last week that he did expose me to past life regression, which was kind of out of the box thinking. Fast forward to being in practice probably a couple years, and one thing that really stuck in my head that my teacher taught me, my first clinical hypnosis teacher taught me, is if you want to take someone else into a state of relaxed hypnosis, you cannot be stressed. They will unconsciously hear it in your voice if you're strained, if you're anxious, if you're upset, if you're distracted. So he was a big proponent for, as I'm guiding you into hypnosis, that I'm going relaxed too. So in my sessions with people, when I'm talking and we're doing the data harvesting, I'm collecting information, I'm asking you questions, I'm leading with my analytical mind. And then the minute that I have you close your eyes and I take you into hypnosis to do whatever we're going to do in that hypnotic altered state, I would start to slow my voice down. You could, you know, visibly hear me say, okay, go ahead and close your eyes. take a deep breath. And then as I'm guiding you to relax your facial muscles, I would be imagining relaxing my facial muscles. And this is how I learned to pace in hypnosis as well, is I would tell the person to do whatever I wanted them to do, relax, and then I would relax. Relax your shoulders, I'd pause, relax my shoulders. And so I was going into trance with people as I'm taking them into trance. And then from that, I started learning, oh, wow, like, you know, it's almost like the tractor beam in Star Trek or something, where I'm going in and then sometimes I'm pulling people to that level because they're really stressed. And then one day, I started noticing that I was having this tingling sensation on the top of my head. And it felt like someone was gently stroking my hair. And so I didn't know what that was, but I just was, you know, noticing it. Sometimes it was irritating. And then I started getting insights with people. And so, for example, I'm taking a client through a coaching portion of the session, and she's talking about her fear of public speaking. And she's describing it and this and that. And I hear a voice say, oh, that's because of her dad. Her dad was very critical of her. And I went, you know, like that. And it wasn't an outside voice. Some people, when they channel, they do say that they hear a different voice, not their voice. But for me, it was like me talking to myself, you know, where you have that inner dialogue. But it kind of came out of nowhere. And I was like, So after the session, after I'd done the hypnosis, I said, you know, I just had this thought, and I'm wondering if your fear of public speaking comes from somebody, maybe like your dad. And she goes, oh my gosh, yeah, da, da, da. And so that was the first time it happened. And then the second time it happened, I was actually on a house call with a woman who had severe agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is where you're afraid to leave the house. She wouldn't drive, she wouldn't leave the home. And so she paid me to come to her house and do sessions on her there. And so I'm sitting there, and I did ask the question. I was already meditating. I was already very aware that with hypnosis and in meditation, if you ask a question, you'll get answers. And sometimes they come in right away, sometimes they come later. And I really wanted to help this woman. I mean, she was just basically debilitated, isolated at home. I'm driving over there, and sometimes when you're driving, it can be a natural trance state. And I said, what do I need to know to help this person? I really want to help her. So I'm sitting there in her living room, and I got another download, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is just kind of outside the box. And I said, so what if you're doing this to yourself, like as a form of self-punishment? And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, like, for example, what if you cheated on your husband and you're now unconsciously sabotaging yourself from going out in the world because you're afraid you might cheat on him again, and you don't want to do that because it caused a lot of trouble. I thought she was going to fall on the floor. She freaked out. She started yelling, oh my God, how did you know that? How did you know that? And I freaked out because I was like, how did I know that? And and that began my journey into becoming aware that I could download and channel information for clients. Then along the way, I started studying intuitive development. I worked with a lady after I'd had my 9/11 incident where I heard a voice tell me not to get on a plane. So, hold on, I just saw someone was trying to get in. Okay. then from there on, typically how my channeling developed with clients would be that once I would take them into that altered state, I would ask, what do I need to know? What do I need to tell them? What do I need to do to help this person today? And sometimes I would be shown a scene to take them to. Sometimes I would hear a message that I would incorporate into their post-hypnotic suggestions. So it could be an affirmation, you know, always something positive, you're loved, things are going to get better, you know, whatever it is. So it's getting messages that I would just drill right into the session. A lot of times people would come up and go, oh my gosh, you were reading my mind, or how did you know that was part of it, the problem? And so I just had a lot of reinforcement with it. And then I said, okay, well, I should be able to start using this for myself. And so I would do something simple. And I demonstrated this several weeks ago in our Facebook group, if you can go back and see it. And where I just would start every morning with dropping out of my head into my heart and just asking myself, what do I need to know today? What do I need to know today? And that's it can be that easy for you guys, is when you're unsure about something, is you ask yourself, what do I need to know about this situation? What do I need to know about this person? And so that's the evolution for me with the work. Then it continued on to, I started doing channeled readings for people. And when I'm in my deepest trance, I would say it's similar to, some of you may have heard of Edgar Cayce, where he would lay on the sofa and he would go into trance and people would come in and they'd ask him questions. So I'm able to do that. There are so many famous people in history who I think were actually channeling. Churchill supposedly would have his little couch time. JFK would have his little couch time. And I if you kind of dive back through it, a lot of people are downloading inventions and problem solving and things like that. So it's something that every single one of you can do. And so that's basically the evolution of it for me in my career and in my life. If you have any questions about that, you can drop them into the chat. And then the other common question I get from people is, who am I channeling? What am I channeling? What is the source of this information? And what's interesting about it for me is that I never felt called to derive a source. You know, some people say, well, I want to talk to the angels, Archangel Michael. I want to talk to Jesus, you know, I want to talk to Mary Magdalene, something like that. If you're familiar with Esther Hicks and all her famous YouTube videos and books on law of attraction, she says that she channels a collective energy that is named Abraham. For my personal opinion for you all, it doesn't really matter, you know, what the name is. In fact, I asked my guides one time, because I do feel like I have a particular energy collective, if you would call it. I don't feel like it's a single entity per se, but it's an energy. It could be the oneness. And I asked them, what should I call you? And they said, what do you want to call us? We're energy. So I'm a big believer, if you're going to channel, why go through an angel or something like that per se, unless you're really, really called to do it. I think intuitively you should ask for the guidance to come through your higher self. I believe if you establish a connection with your higher self, and my perspective or belief about that is that we are souls having these human experiences, and we also have an aspect of us that's part of the oneness, the collective consciousness. universal love, all knowing. And that part of you knows what's best for you. And today, you know, why is this important? Why would it be important for people to learn how to channel? Like Renee said, you know, helping her clients. But we live in an age of overload of information between the news, self-help books, people on Facebook and everywhere else telling us their opinions. And I really believe that if you're going to navigate forward and have more confidence and do what's right for you every step of the way, if you can connect with your higher self, if you can get your intuition online, your higher guidance online, you're going to lead a much more confident life. You're going to lead a much more productive life. You're going to be able to take steps towards your own betterment in a much more expeditious way. And so, for example, when we listen to something on the news that says you should do this or you should do that to stay healthy around COVID, I honestly really believe that you have to ask yourself and your higher self, what do I need to do to stay healthy? And when I really started asking those questions for myself on that topic, I knew I wasn't going to get sick. Haven't yet. I'm setting the intention that I don't get sick. I also asked if there were supplements that I should take, if there were things that I should do to up my immunity. And I got some answers and I could share those with you, but the truth is that it might be you need something different. Your body needs something different. For me, it was vitamin C and actually fresh aloe, which for the whole month of April, I did fresh aloe in a blender with apple, and I was taking extra vitamin C and some oregano spray in my throat. The other area where I really feel like people get bogged down in their mind and they could benefit from learning to channel their own information is in relationships. If you're single, if you're divorced, if you're looking to get back out there, or you are out there as a single woman, there is a overabundance of coaches on YouTube. There's self-help books. It's like mind-boggling and almost immobilizing. And I know this because when I left my marriage, I decided I wanted to be a different person so that next time around I would attract a different type of relationship. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean that I don't think you should ever read a book or work with a coach, but your ultimate decision maker needs to be yourself. So how I think the two work in tandem, your left brain, analytical mind, which wants to gather data from the news, from coaching, from reading books, from reading things online. You gather the data, and then it's up to your intuition, your right brain, and your higher self to discern what's true for you right now. And so something might be right for you today and wrong for you tomorrow. What you're supposed to do in certain circumstances, you know, it's like, oh, well, you know, if someone doesn't text you back, you should not text them back, or, you know, there's just so much information that could be valuable, but is it valuable to you and applicable to you and the best action for you right now? And so another area where I'll leap to where you could really use this channeling and opening to your own intuition is weight loss. A diet is someone else's set of rules about how to lose weight, and the order in which you do things. And so it could be that you've had some diets where some of the things have worked and other aspects haven't worked. But in an overall sense, if you're following someone else's diet, you may be disconnecting heavily from what your instinct and your intuition is telling you to do. So let's just say one day, like I went keto for like 2 years right before it started getting popular, and I was eating a keto adapted diet and I felt really good. And then all of a sudden one day I started craving granola and I'm like, wow, that's not keto at all. And I was craving, I think it was walnuts, and this woman came into my office. She's like, oh yeah, blah, 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 with selenium. And I was like, and I heard my intuition, higher self say, check that out, selenium, girl, you need to check that out. So I wrote a little note on my thing and I went and looked up selenium, and it's like in granola and walnuts. And I'm like, oh, that's why I'm craving that. So if a diet says don't eat bananas, unless you're diabetic or something like that, I'm not saying to go against something that could jeopardize your health or your life, but I believe that the true way forward for you in so many aspects is to really learn to know yourself, to have that discernment, to take in the data and then sift through it, know what's right for you. And then the beauty of this, and this is what a lot of people don't realize, is when you think you're ADD and you're getting these random sort of thoughts coming into your mind about something you've read, something you've heard, oftentimes that's how your higher self will communicate information to you. It will convey it to you in the form of a memory. It will convey it to you in the form of a little zing that you'll get, like, hey, selenium, check that out. Any questions so far? If you do, you can unmute yourself, raise your hand, or drop it in the chat. I hope all that's making sense. You know, sometimes when someone's been doing something for so long, I try to be mindful of being a good teacher if it's something that people, it's a new topic. So I don't, you know, there's no question that's stupid or simple or embarrassing. So definitely ask if you have any questions. Okay. So if not, what I was going to do today is I'm going to just close my eyes for a few moments, and I'm going to just channel a message. I knew coming in today that one of the things I wanted to do was whoever showed up today in this group, it's divinely guided. Each of you are supposed to be here today. And so I'm going to ask for a message for the group. I did this on Mother's Day. If you want to go back also in the Facebook group, there is a recording that I did. It's also on my YouTube channel. If anybody's interested, I'll drop it in the chat. Rosie, you were on there. In fact, I'm going to share with you. Let's see. Actually, I don't think I can do this with. I'm going to share it back in the group. But that day, I was talking about anxiety, and that it was Mother's Day, and I did a channeled portion message, and then I sent energy to each person in the group. So I'm going to do that today. We have a good size group for me to be able to do that. And let me see, I like to use people's name because it just helps me dial in. There's a few people in here where I don't have your name. Like there's someone that's iPhone. There's somebody that's a 787 number and another iPhone. If you guys want me to send you some energy today, let's see. Yes, Carol, I did talk through how one can begin the process of their own channeling. Yes, I will talk about that. Thank you. Okay, so how do you start your process of channeling? Ladies, it can't be simpler than, I would suggest that you start first thing in the morning when you wake up. Your analytical mind hasn't totally taken over yet. Okay, so Carmen's on the 7 and 1. Okay, thank you, Carmen. So when you first wake up in the morning, before you even get out of bed, and you're in a natural trance state. You're in a natural hypnotic state. So our normal awake state is, our brain waves are considered beta, and then alpha is kind of like a daydream state. Theta is a deeper hypnotic state, and then delta is sleep. And then when we come out of sleep, we go from delta up to theta, to alpha, to beta. So you're in that natural hypnotic state, you're in that natural trance state. And what I suggest is that you just keep it very simple and just ask one question. And if you can't think of it, typically you might want to think of it the night before and just write it on a piece of paper or in your journal by your bedside. If you do that, sometimes you'll even get dreams. You'll get that the answer for that question in a dream. But when you wake up in the morning, just ask, what do I need to know for today? Or what do I need to know to help my client today? What do I need to know to better deal with my son today? What do I need to know to get through my stress about money today? Like, you just ask one question, start it with what do I need to know? And then your job is to just be quiet. And sometimes you'll hear a message, you'll just hear a response. Let me just say this, if you're channeling higher guidance and true intuition, you will never, ever, ever hear something mean, dark, evil, unloving. You may hear something funny because your higher self could be quite witty and love to banter and like puns, which I've got that in my repertoire, but you will never hear anything negative. Just to be clear on that, if it's from your higher self or universal consciousness, which is universal love. And then, so you may hear a voice, your voice, typically it'll be your voice. You could hear one word, you could hear one phrase. You could get just a feeling. So that's clairsentient. So if you're hearing, that's clairaudient. We have the ability to open all of these channels. That's something else I want to share, is that there's a lot of misinformation that's come before. There's quizzes, and you got to figure out if you're clairaudient or clairvoyant, which is clear seeing, clairsentient, which is clear feeling. So many of us are that. Claircognizant, which is just like getting a knowing. But truthfully, you can and will, if you persist, you will develop all of those channels. You will open all of those channels. And when you're getting a memory coming in, that's claircognizance. So that's just like, I was working, I wanted to develop my skills. So I worked on the Psychic Friends Network, Psychic Power Network, probably about 15 years ago, because I wanted to test myself. I wanted to push myself outside my comfort zone. And a lady was asking me if her boyfriend was cheating on her. And I was like, oh gosh, here we go, loaded question. And I'm sitting there listening to her talk, and all of a sudden this supposedly random memory came into my mind of my college boyfriend. And it just kept coming in, and I'm like, that's me, not her. I'm wanting to focus on her. So finally, I just trusted my gut, and I said, and I described my college boyfriend. I said he's about 5'11", he has brown hair, blue eyes, kind of freckly, medium build. And yes, he's cheating on you, but he still loves you. And that was my college boyfriend's story. And she goes, oh my God, I knew it. You described him perfectly. Yes, that's him. And I knew he was cheating on me, and click, she hangs up. And that's because they charge like $60 a minute or $60 an hour for that. But that was when I learned, like, your higher self, your guides, if they are working with you, they will use your data bank, your memories, to just quickly, boom, give you the answer to a question that you're asking. So that is what I would suggest. If you did that every day for a month, or you decided what the question was, it could be as simple as, what do I need to know to have my best day? What do I need to know for this day to go as smoothly as possible? What do I need to know about this meeting with my ex-husband? You know, just keep it very simple like that. Write down anything that you get immediately as you're rolling out of bed, and then you may get the answer in the shower. You may get it while you're driving. You may not get it. You may get it in the form of a song, like a lyric of a song on the radio that just pops out at you. And then the more you just pay attention, the more you'll start to really know that you are receiving information through all of those intuitive channels. It's just learning discernment, learning to pay attention. So I'll give one other example. I was leading a channeling group, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that. I think one of the best ways for people to learn to develop confidence in their ability to channel is to actual practice, to have practice. So for several years, I was leading small groups in my office of about 6. And we would do this exact exercise where I would have everyone write down in the beginning of the workshop a question that they wanted to answer. Then we go and do some type of intuitive development exercise, and then, you know, I would take people into a meditative state through a guided imagery or something like that. I play music, and then I tell you to ask your question or hear the answer to your question. So that, and I always do it with everyone. I'm going along for the ride. And so my question one day in one of the groups was, I wanted to know what do I need to know about my ex-husband? So I was going through divorce. I had set the intention that it was going to go as smoothly as possible, in the highest and best way. And so far it had been. And then one night I was out. I had just literally talked to him on the phone in the car about the kids. I show up at this little neighborhood restaurant, and there he is with his friend, and he ignores me. He pretends like he doesn't know me. And I'm such an empath, and I'm such a, like, you know, I don't know, sensitive being. His friend came over and said hello to me and my girlfriend, but my ex just didn't come over, didn't say hi. And so I got upset by that, and I felt hurt, and I didn't really know. I was like, wow, okay, what do I do with that? You know, do I wall off like he does? Do I back off? Do I act cold? Do I act aloof? And so the question in the group that I wrote down in the beginning, based on that story, was, what do I need to know about how to deal with my husband going forward? He was my husband at the time, but soon to be ex. So I'm sitting there, and I take everyone else into the hypnotic state, and then I quiet. And I ask, and I have this sensation of like a funnel opening, like my crown chakra opens. This is the sensation I particularly get. And I heard my voice speak in a vernacular that I don't normally use. And the voice said, when is it not okay to love? And I just burst into tears. No one else saw me because everybody had their eyes closed. And for me, another way I know that I'm getting higher guidance and intuitive guidance is when I hear the sentence or the message come through in a way that I don't normally talk. So if I was to say to someone else, oh, you know, you should always keep an open heart, you should always be loving, even if they can't be, you know, that's probably what I would have cognitively said. But the channel, the message coming through was, when is it not okay to love? And that helped me so much because it was like, it doesn't matter what he does. I know what I need to do. And so it's so, oh my gosh, you guys, it's just so beautiful and powerful when you can get these messages for yourself. The last thing I'll say, unless there's other questions before I do the channeling, is I mentioned I do readings for others. I'm happy to do readings for people. And I do have people that come to my office, they get a session, they get readings. If you do the past life regression, typically I'll do an intuitive reading at the end. I am reading you. If we do any kind of hypnosis session, I am incorporating messages in. I can see people's past lives. I can feel and sense your guides. And I can do all of that for you. But I know firsthand that if I can teach you to do those things yourself, the inner confidence you have to navigate through your life is just exponentially different. And I had a lady come in, she called me and she said, yeah, I know about some of my past lives, but I'm still feeling this kind of feeling. She said, it felt really amazing at the time, but now I'm kind of feeling this disconnect. And I said, yeah, that's what happens when someone else tells you. So if you come to see me, I can tell you about your past lives, but you're going to be like, wow, that's cool. I did this, I did that. And it might resonate with you, but I guarantee you a day to a week later, you're going to feel flat. And you're going to feel flat because someone else was giving you the information versus you getting the download, the information yourself. It's just, there's no comparison, because when you get it yourself, you will trust it 1,000 times more when you learn to trust it, which it isn't hard to do. It just takes practice, and it's super, super easy. I've been leading those groups for years in my office. I'm going to start doing it online. That's kind of the announcement of today. And it's not hard. It's not hard at all. It's just practice. Okay, so without any other ado, I'm just gonna drop in now. And yes, Charnel said, I've remembered several of my past lives. I've actually remembered a future life. Yes, I love that. That is fascinating. We'll have to maybe talk about that, Charnel, on another call. Oh yeah, speaking in French. Yes. Did you watch my past life regression thing last week? Okay, you got to listen to it, because I play a little soundbite of this guy speaking in a ancient language, and it'll give you goosebumps. But yes, that does happen, and I do believe we can see future lives. I've seen a few of mine, and they can be very comforting to see what's going to happen for you in the future, especially if you're not with a loved one that you want to be with, or you've had a loved one that's passed and you're just wondering if you'll ever see that person again or be with that person again. So that's really awesome that you've had that, and maybe you can just direct message me and tell me about it. I'd love to hear about it, or share it with the group if you want to do that. Okay, I'm gonna get a little sip of water. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close my eyes. I'm going to speak, and then I'm going to go through with each person, and I'm going to just be sending you energy. And so what I start to do right now is I just start to imagine that I have this channel of light that goes, for me, my intuition says it goes from my heart up through my throat chakra. So it connects from my heart to my throat, to my third eye, up through my crown chakra, and then up to collective consciousness, higher self. So the collective energy coming through today wants each of you to know that you are, they're calling you points of light, points of light. And they want to make it clear that this vessel does not put herself above any of you. She only opens to allow you to see what's possible for each of you. And to know that each of you, not only do you have the ability to channel information for your health, your love relationships, your careers, higher purpose, each of you has a unique gifts to share with this world. And it's not so much about what you do. As women, we have evolved in order to achieve much of the equality that we have achieved thus far, is that we've disowned many aspects of the feminine, and thus with that, suppressing emotions, disregarding our emotions, disowning our emotions, and even resenting our emotions, emotions being weak, vulnerable, uncomfortable, and they say, frankly, a pain in the ass sometimes. But what they want you to know is now is the time for a new wave. They call it a new wave of feminism. So there was the suffragettes, maybe that's wave 1. Wave 2 was burning of the bras and stepping into wanting equal pay, equal jobs, equal status in our careers, wanting to be having work in male-dominated fields. Now we're positioned, those of us who are willing to make peace with our emotions, we're positioned to become whole-brained Renaissance women. And part of this is to know that your emotions are not coming up if they feel uncomfortable or stressful to sabotage you. Each emotion brings with it a story that is part of your vaster intuitive guidance system. So when you have a stressful emotion like anxiety, take yourself through a very simple process where, first of all, you don't disregard that feeling. You don't beat yourself up about it. Try not to suppress it with medication, food, alcohol, but look at that emotion as bringing a story to you. Now, that story may be true. It may be anxiety telling you to go a different way on the road, to slow down when you're driving. It could be anxiety telling you to change your diet. It could be also something from your past that needs healing. So when we suppress the emotion and we don't allow ourselves to look at it, we don't get to the bottom of it. We don't get to the wisdom behind the emotion. And you will find a true liberation within yourself when you allow yourself to feel whatever you feel and ride the roller coaster, because each one of you, having that divine feminine within you, you are the ocean of emotions. You are the ocean. So you can be stormy, and you can be calm, and you can be deep, and you can be wild, and you can be all of those things when you embrace your emotions. They are part of your intuitive guidance system. The other thing they want you to know, that even if you begin and choose to go down this road of listening to your intuitive guidance, they want you to know that to try to minimize rule making, And what they mean by that is, if you hear a message that says to you today to eat a certain food, to lose weight, to be healthier, this does not mean you eat that food to lose weight or to be healthier for the rest of your life. Intuition is so dialed in the moment, and it can change from day to day, week to week, month to month, second to second. And the way that you'll know is if you get some information and something's guiding you to change your diet, for example, and you keep hearing like, I should, let's say, I should cut out meat. I should go vegetarian for a while. You keep getting that message. You'll serve yourself well to go with that and eat that way. If it feels right to you, if it resonates to you, if it raises your vibration, if it makes you feel healthier. But as you would go on, if you wake up one day and you think about being vegetarian and you feel this cumbersome feeling, you feel a heavy feeling, you feel a resistance, this is your sign to check in with that perhaps that intuitive guidance has become a rule. And so ultimately, in your day-to-day dealings with people and making decisions, your body, why it's so important to have good health and to really try not to numb out your emotions, and to love your body and re-inhabit your body, because your body is this vibratory mechanism that will tell you in any given moment if something is a yes or a no right now. So they want to give, they want to use an example from my life where I was feeling this very excited calling to go to Panama. When I found out that I had a friend who lives there and was inviting me to come and visit, and this was back in January, December, and I was like, yes. And I started looking into the flights. And then all of a sudden, as I'm looking at the flights, I could feel as I was going through that activity, my body's getting heavier, my body's feeling resistant, something's feeling off to me, it's not feeling as exciting. And the old me would have been like, oh, well, I had this intuition and I should do it. But I started hearing, not right now. And I could feel my body was reinforcing that with a resistance, a heaviness, a tightness. And then COVID came out, and I would have had booked my flight right when the airports were shut down, everything. I don't know what would have happened with the ticket, but that is an example of how it's so important to be in the moment with listening to your body, and your body will, it's like the antenna. It will help to guide you with your answers. So in simplistic terms, learning your yes and your no in the moment. Learning your yes and your no in the moment. So typically a yes is something that enlivens you, energizes you. So for example, if we were to say, imagine yourself swimming in the ocean right now. And many of you might go, yes, yes. And your body feels energized. You hear yourself take a sigh. You breathe in, your energy feels expansive. You feel happy thinking about that. Some others of you might be like, no, doesn't feel good to me right now. Or maybe it doesn't feel good to you consistently. They're telling me to do some training later on with this to teach you your yes and your no. But that is true intuition, is where you're really listening to what your body's saying, what your intuition is saying in the moment without rules. Okay, so the other thing they're saying is, I'll just take a couple more minutes, is that many of you spend a lot of time overthinking, analyzing, worrying, planning, projecting. And again, it's the world that we've been brought up in. It's the type of activity that we're commended for. Good planning, good thinking, being productive, thinking ahead to avoid pitfalls and problems, and thinking that if we'll keep thinking, we're going to solve the problem. More thinking will produce more resolution or better results. And what they want to say is that's an energy and you're never going to get rid of it and you need it. But if you can take time to do things either in silent meditation or more in your being state, that it's going to be very helpful for you to open to your intuition. They want me to share with you that I actually get a lot of my downloads, believe it or not, while I'm in the gym, exercising, moving my body, I'm rhythmic, I'm not so much in my head. I get downloads while I'm walking. I get downloads while I'm walking at the beach. So it doesn't have to be this official way of like dialing in for information. But the main thing is that they want you to know is to anything you can do to take a break from the spinning mind, analyzing, and try to quiet that and shh. And then the masculine energy, analyzing, is a reaching energy, grabbing for data. The intuition is that funnel opening up. It's the download. It's the information coming to you. So if you can quiet this part, dim it down, or shrink it down, you make room for the downloads and the information coming to you, and the knowings in your heart and the knowing in your gut. Okay. So I'm just going to take a moment now and I'm going to send energy to each of you. Okay. All right. So any questions? You can ask now, or you can drop me a message in private chat. And I thank you all for coming on today, and I hope this was useful and helpful. Right. Okay, everyone. You are so welcome. Have a great afternoon. Bye.